Hi. I was kind of giving it a few minutes to give everyone a chance to log on if there was going to be anyone with me live. I know sometimes you all don't come on live and you just listen at different times. So I have got some products that I'm going to go over with you today. And I'm going to use my phone for a chart that Josie just created for us, and we're going to post it. Wondering if you guys can hear me. John, can you tell me, John Scharf, can you tell me if you can hear me okay? I set this microphone up today, and I just want to make sure you can hear me okay. Not sure if John is able to say anything. So I'm going to trust that you can hear me. My light is on my microphone, so I'm trusting that this is coming through okay. It's my first time setting up the microphone, so I just kind of wanted to make sure I hadn't screwed that up. Let me pull up this awesome chart that Josie made us. We're going to share this after this meeting. So something I want to talk about a little bit today is protein and all of our different options for getting protein in, as well as just, how much protein we should be having and all the different, factors that we're taking into consideration in that. I think I'm going to go turn the fan off because I'm just afraid it's going to kind of come across as like white noise to you guys. So let me turn that off. It kind of got warm today in a beautiful way. It was a gorgeous day, but it got a little bit warm in here because we had the back doors open. So I had the fan on. So hopefully that doesn't sound like there's a big noise in the back there. So the first thing I want to talk about is like how much protein should we have and how do we know how much protein we should have? There are lots of different camps, lots of different theories. So, my opinion is just one opinion. So take that for what it's worth. But I feel like people can go too far with protein, and you really need to make sure that you are active enough to for sure be utilizing that amount of protein. So, if you're in a situation where you're consuming a certain amount of protein and, some people are saying, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. If you're doing that, if you're consuming that, but you're really not that active of a person, you're just not necessarily going to utilize all that protein. It doesn't, the body isn't necessarily going to digest all of that and truly use it. So the protein can convert to fat in the same way that carbs can, so an excess of protein can cause an issue in the same way that an excess of carbohydrates can. In fact, you can have a blood sugar spike from too much protein. It's called gluconeogenesis. So it definitely can be an issue if you are, not, if you're not active enough to truly utilize all that protein. I'm just going to look at this micro. Okay, I've got my blue light. I'm going to stop being worried about my microphone, but I don't have any of you on to tell me that it is okay. So I'm just like wanting to make sure you guys can hear me. But anyways, I'm just going to trust in the Lord. Thank you, Jesus, for my microphone working strong. Thank you, Lord. All right. So when we think about the actual macros and the amount to have, if we were going to have 1 gram of protein, it's not 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, because if you're a 200-pound person, you'd be consuming 200 grams of protein. You want it to be per pound of lean body mass. So the amount of muscle that you possess, or the goal amount of muscle that you wish to possess. So let's say that I weigh 115 pounds, and typically I range between 112 and 115 pounds. If my body fat is such that out of that 115 pounds, let's say 90 of my pounds are muscle, okay? And so 20 of my pounds are water and body fat, right? So let's say 90 is the amount that I possess in muscle. I would, if I was going to do 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, I would do 90 grams of protein. And that's about what I consume in a day. It's about 90 grams. There are some days that it goes up to 100 or, maybe 105. Then there are some days that I'm not as active and it goes to, maybe, 75, it goes to maybe 85. It just depends on, what my day is like and how long I've slept in and how many meals I'm going to be having in that day. The average person typically recommendation is 0.8 per gram of lean body mass. Okay. So then what that would look like is, really a little bit more of that, closer to that 70, to 80 grams of protein, or 65 to 85 grams of protein. So think about it that way. 0.8 would be an option if you're not super active, if you're not in the gym lifting weights 3 times a week at least. If your cardio, if you're not super active with cardio on a regular basis, maybe the goal is to be more active. Great, then let's eat for that. But if we just start eating for it before we actually start doing it, there's just a really good chance that you're going to gain weight. You're going to gain weight from too much of it. So we have to take that into consideration. Okay. Now, as far as if my goal was that I wanted to gain more muscle. So let's say that I, have a goal of, wanting to, be able to put on a little bit more muscle. I just want to be, let's say, a little bit more fit. I just want to really kind of beef up a little bit. And maybe I want to put on 5 pounds of muscle, which is not an easy thing to do. That is like maybe a 2-year process, just so you understand. Like, don't ever let someone trick you into thinking that you're going to do that in a 6-month period of time. It is going to take month after month after month of consistency to be able to put on a pound of lean body mass. Like, it actually really takes work. And you also have to feed that. So let's say I want to put on that 5 pounds. What I could do is I could then eat for that amount. So I could say, okay, I'm going to eat for 95 pounds of lean body mass. Hey, Beth, I just want to make sure you can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I hadn't had anyone come on yet. Well, John Scharf came on, but then he jumped off, and I set up the microphone today. So I was like, let's pray that I did it right. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so we're talking protein here. So, so just so you know, so that's what I've been talking. So the point I was trying to make is, if I were deciding that I wanted to put on 5 pounds of muscle, okay, if that's my goal, then instead of eating that 90 grams, if I'm going to eat 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, now I'm going to start eating 95 grams. So I'm going to gradually increase because I want to put more muscle on. But remember, I'm not just gradually increasing that without something else on the other end of it. Now, what am I doing in the gym for that 95 that I'm taking in? I need to be increasing something. So like when I started the extra mile and I started doing, 100 push-ups and 100 dips and 100 squats and 100 lunges and 100 crunches and my 1-minute plank, and I started doing that every single day, I added more protein because I wanted to, tighten and tone my muscle while I was doing that. But if my objective was more for, let's say, fat loss, like if I truly did want to get a little bit leaner, I'd have to be cautious with how much of that protein that I add, because I might just maintain my weight and never really achieve the leanness that I'm looking for. So I might have a phase where I might keep that at 95. I want to put on a little bit of muscle, and maybe that time would be the fall, and maybe it would be the winter, because maybe I'm going to be wearing sweaters and sweatshirts all the time. But then maybe as spring would start to come in, and I know I'm going to be in a sleeveless top, or maybe I know I'm going to be in a swimsuit or something like that. I'm not saying I do this, but I'm just saying this might be the thought process. Then I might say, okay, I'm okay that I did 95 during that time, but now I'm going to go down to just 90. All right. And I'm going to kind of manage the amount of carbs that I take in. I'm going to manage the fats that I take in, and maybe just calorically manage just in total what I'm taking in a day, because I do want to kind of lean out. I want to shred up. I want to get a little less body fat on my body. So the way I would do that is I would take that extra 5 grams that I increased to try to put on some muscle, to now try to draw down a little bit and try to show some of that muscle a little bit more, because I want to look a little bit leaner. So that's something to take into consideration. Just giving you some ideas here. My thought is, if you're in the gym 2 to 3 times a week and you're doing strength training 2 to 3 times a week, I think it's an adequate amount of protein to do 0.08, instead of 1 gram of lean body mass, 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. I think the 0.8 is kind of a better objective in the beginning, especially if you have some weight that you need to lose. If you have weight that you need to lose, then I would just be cautious of automatically going to that 1 gram. Now, if you want to try it, if you want to experiment with it, if you want to increase that protein, see what happens. First and foremost, make sure your body is digesting it. If you are increasing protein, are you breaking it down? Like, are you genuinely digesting it, or do you have it and then ultimately just kind of almost feel like it's sitting like a brick in your belly? Are you really breaking that food down? As you start to add more and more, how well are you digesting it? When I typically meet with a person for like a first meeting, and then as we start to follow up, like, let's say from a female's perspective, I'll recommend 3 to 5 ounces of protein, okay, for a meal. Then for a male, I might recommend 5 to 8 ounces or 6 to 8 ounces, depending upon that male. And so I'll do that because everyone digests and receives protein a little bit differently, and every different type of protein can be received differently. All right. So if a person is having hamburger or steak, they may only do 3 to 4 ounces, because that might sit a lot heavier in their stomach and they may not need as much of it. But if they're having fish, they may have a full 5 ounces of that. Or for a man, they may have a full 8 ounces of that, because that might sit a lot lighter and they may not feel as sustained from that. So that's something to take into consideration. Also, beef takes a couple of days to really break down and to really digest. So what you might find with beef is you might eat that beef and it may just be like, oh, okay, I feel really full from that. I don't need 5 ounces. I don't need 8 ounces. But that's not always the case for everyone. So it's also going to be dependent upon how well you break that down. So I hope that helps you. Like, I hope that kind of really answers more specific questions on like exactly how much you should consider taking in. Now, Josie made us this really great chart today. We love Josie. Thank you so much for that. And it talks about like all the different types. All right. So first thing, and I just had her do like a generic 5 ounces. Like that's all I asked was, let's just go across the board. It seems like a kind of standard. So 5 ounces of lean turkey. So, your leaner version, this isn't your turkey thigh. This is more your turkey breast. Even if it's ground, 5 ounces of that is 35 grams of protein for 5 ounces. That's a decent amount. Okay. 5 ounces of a chicken breast is 33 grams of protein. So just slightly less. So that's kind of how much that we're getting. Now, this is kind of something that I was always surprised about in the beginning when I started doing nutrition was 5 ounces of beef, like ground beef, is actually only 30 grams of protein. So when I think, when I think of a hamburger or when I think of a steak, I'm like, ooh, protein. That's going to be so high in protein. Like, I'm getting all the protein when I'm having beef. But believe it or not, chicken and turkey are actually higher in protein. Now, that doesn't mean beef isn't as good for you. Beef is high in a lot of different vitamins and minerals. So you're getting different fats, especially if it's fully grass-fed. But you're getting different vitamins and minerals. Like, you're getting some vitamin B, you're getting iron, you're getting a lot of different things. You're getting some different things than what you would get with that chicken and with that turkey. Okay, another thing would be 5 ounces of bison. That would be 28 grams of protein, so even a little bit less. And bison is always grass-fed. 5 ounces of salmon, 29 grams. So you can see that our chicken and our turkey is beating everything so far. I eat ground turkey. I've been on kind of like a mode of doing some ground turkey, and I've been eating it in a skillet. I've been cooking it with some avocado oil and crisping it. It is so good. It is so good. And it is just like crunchy and crispy. And I would highly recommend it. I use this little like pounder thing and John comes in and pulverizes it and turns it into these little bitty things. And it's just so delicious to make it that way. So just something to think about. You can also dice a bunch of shallot and mushroom, saute them on the side, make that crunchy, crispy turkey, and then combine those mushrooms and those shallots together with that crunchy, crispy turkey. Delicious. And I just put hot sauce and no sugar added Heinz ketchup. Heinz has a no sugar added ketchup. Okay. Now here's something to notice. 3 whole eggs, only 18 grams of protein. 6 egg whites, 21 grams of protein. So 3 whole eggs with the fat, only 18 grams of protein. But 6 egg whites would be 21 grams. Now, I'm not saying doing one or the other. I'm just saying what you might want to do if you're shooting for a 30-gram protein meal, if that's your objective or goal, then what you might want to do is do 3 whole eggs, but then add another 3 egg whites to that, because that would take that to 28 grams of protein, almost 29 grams of protein. Does that make sense? So if it's your breakfast, okay, so the way I've always looked at it is I've given someone eggs for breakfast. I don't mind that that's only about 20 grams of protein. Sometimes I'll give them 10 grams of collagen with that in their coffee to take them to 30 grams of protein, and I'll have them take branched chain amino acids with that meal. Or sometimes I'll do that for breakfast, 30 grams for lunch, 10 grams as an afternoon snack, and 30 grams for dinner. So then I'm still getting, 30, 30, and then 30 between those two. Again, that's putting a person at 90 grams of protein. That needs to be an active person. You need to actively be weight training if you're taking in that much protein. If you are not strength training, if it's not part of your week, it's a lot of protein to be taking in, and to really make sure that your body is utilizing that. Just be cautious of that, okay? Now, if you're working out for 2 hours a day the way I am, you probably could go more than that. You probably could go 105 grams of protein. I mean, you probably could go per pound of body weight. I probably could go 115 pounds of, or 115 grams per my body weight if I wanted to. And I probably could put on more muscle that way. But I want to stay lean. So I want to have a more defined, shredded look. So I'm not going to do that because I don't think that gets my body there. I do have some clients, they can do that much protein and they do stay lean by doing that. I am not one of those people. So you have to also learn your body. So just be aware that eggs are going to be a little bit lower. So I'm going to post this, and maybe you guys could save it to your phone, just so that way, if you're thinking like, okay, where am I with this? Oh, I had turkey, so I'm already at 35, that kind of thing. The other thing to consider is like, this is for 5 ounces, so that means that each ounce of turkey is 7 grams of protein. So that's just something to consider. If you're like doing 4 ounces, then you know how much you're kind of backing that off. I know this is a lot of numbers, computing, calculating, tracking. I'm not asking you to do all this. I've never been somebody that has said, track your macros every day. I don't want you to have to live that life. But if it helps you, and if you are trying to work up to it and you are trying to build it, then track it for a week or two. Just make sure you're getting enough of things and base that off of how you feel, and just, am I having enough energy? Is my brain feeling clear? Are my workouts feeling strong? That'll tell us if you're getting enough protein or not. Okay. Now let's think about some sources of protein and the quality level of those sources. All right. So when I think about turkey, when I think about chicken, what am I looking for in order to have a quality source of protein? I don't want those animals to be injected with estrogen. That's my biggest concern. So I can look for organic. I can look for free range, but I want to know the farmer. I've just gone that far. Like with Fed from the Farm, the reason why I work with them, I've met that farmer. He has come on my radio show multiple times. When I used to do Farmer Girl, I used to suggest Farmer Girl. She'd been on my radio show for years. I've met that farmer. I know how she farms. For Fed from the Farm, I could drive to Sedalia this weekend, and I want to do it this summer with Sophie, and I could walk that farm. That they would allow me to tour that farm, and they would show me their practices. They would show me how they do things. They have a video camera going on their farm at all times. Nothing's hidden. Okay. So you're getting what you're getting. I also know that farmer, that his wife has dealt with autoimmune, and that's why they have that farm. That's why they've created the practices that they have. So I know that they're taking things to a different level. I'm not saying that Fed from the Farm is the only farm in the country that you should choose from, but it's one that I trust, and that's why I use it. You find your farm. You find your formula for your farm that you trust, that you know what those animals are eating, and that you can trust putting it in your body. You know, when it comes to grass-fed beef, the difference between 100% grass-finished beef is an omega-3 fat versus an omega-6 fat. So that's a really big difference in inflammation for your body. When a farm says that they're grass-fed, you have to ask them if they're grass-finished. I had a farmer come and meet me and was, just wanting me to maybe consider telling people about his farm. And I said, listen, I have a lot of autoimmune clients. I just want to make sure that you don't finish these cows on corn and grains. They're just truly finished on grass. And he goes, oh yeah, just the last 30 days, we just start, in infusing them with a little corn and grain, just to kind of fatten them up there at the end. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that. Like that's what I'm trying to avoid with my clients. Like, I understand that that's been your practice, that's the way that you've done it, but I can't do that with my clients. Now, if you were in the store and you saw that farmer's meat, it would say grass-fed beef, okay? It doesn't say 100% grass-fed beef, and it doesn't say fully grass-finished beef or 100% grass-finished beef. It doesn't say that. But is everyone going to catch that? Like, does everyone know that? Do they know that it has to say grass-finished? Do they know that it has to say 100% grass-fed? There's a really good chance that you don't know that. And if you don't know that, you're buying that grass-fed beef, okay? And you're still getting the corn and grains. And if you're autoimmune, then that's very likely causing you issue and you don't even realize it. I remember in the very beginning with a lot of my autoimmune issues that I was having, when we would go out to eat, I mean, we could go to McCormick and Schmidt's, we could go to the Capitol Grill, we could go to Ruth Chris. I mean, Bristol's. It didn't matter how nice of a place the restaurant was. I'd get sick. I'd have a steak and I would feel bad for a couple days. And at first I thought they're putting butter on that. And I'm somehow missing the fact that they're putting butter on that. And I became very connected with the waiter that we had at the Capitol Grill, like not very connected, but like they would put his name down in the system. And whenever we go there like 3 times a year for holidays and stuff. We now feel like he's like a member of our family, like, because we spend Christmas with them. We spend Thanksgiving with them. It's pretty like he's a big part of our celebration with our family, so like we like bake for him and do things for him. But I was able to have that conversation with him and just say, like, are we sure that I'm not getting butter on this? You are absolutely not getting butter on that. But because it was not a grass-fed, grass-finished steak, way back then when my immune system was really hyper out of control, I would react to that. So nothing wrong with that steak. They didn't even put seasoning on the steak. Like, they couldn't have been more particular about the steak. It didn't matter. I was still responding to it. So if you're in a really serious autoimmune issue, or the body's really in this reactive state, you have to realize you're getting something that's finished on corn and grain. And so you're likely reacting to that corn and grain. Now, please have hope, because I don't have response to that stuff anymore. Now, I don't meal prep that type of hamburger. I'm not going to eat that type of steak all throughout the week. That's not what my everyday is going to be. But Easter, Christmas, Sophie's birthday, Thanksgiving, John's birthday, my birthday, we're probably going to go to the Capitol Grill. John's taking us there on Mother's Day, or for Mother's Day, that next week. We're going to go to the Capitol Grill, and I'm going to have a steak, and I don't get sick from it. Okay. So there's hope in it. You grow out of that. Your leaky gut starts to improve. You start to be able to handle different things, but that doesn't mean that you should meal prep it for the week. Now, so that kind of explains how we should be searching for our chicken and our beef. For turkey, I like the website wildfork.com. Get all organic turkey, all types of turkey, turkey thigh, turkey legs. When you get the ground turkey, you can get like the dark meat and the white meat mix, which I really like, because I think there's some benefit to having, that good fat in there. I mean, a turkey breast that's not like butterball, that's not like injected with a bunch of garbage, so you can really get some good quality meats on wildfork.com. And then for the chicken, for the beef, for the eggs, then I use fedfromthefarm.com. All of this stuff just shows up on your doorstep. It's not like, you have to work at this. Like, you order it and then boom, it shows up to you. So those are the two farms that I recommend. Now, do I go to Whole Foods? Of course. Yeah, sometimes I'll go to Whole Foods. If I'm there, I might go ahead and get a grass-fed steak while I'm there. I might get, some eggs or something like that while I'm there. I get eggs at Dierberg's, when I'm there, just because you have to. You can't always get stuff from the farmer. But I do really try to look for organic, free-range eggs. And like, even the Ben Roberts eggs very clearly states that they do not feed their chickens soy products. So that really helps me with an autoimmune condition. I don't know that there's any one perfect way of doing it, other than if you raise your own chicken and you watch and see exactly where the way that chicken has lived, you watch and see exactly what that chicken eats. You can start to loop on it. Am I doing this right? Am I getting the exact right thing? What we really need to do is see how you feel. When you eat that, what happens to your body? How do you react to it? How are you feeling from that? That's a consideration that we need to take for sure. Okay. So now we've kind of talked about how much of that we should have. We've talked about the sources of meat. Let's talk about some protein powders. Okay. I think it's easy to, consume protein powder. And because the marketing is, so great, you think you're getting the right stuff, and all the while you're getting stuff that they've swept off the floor. It's just kind of the lowest grade form. Whey protein is derived from milk fat, basically. So you're not avoiding dairy if you're having whey protein. If you're having whey protein, you for sure want to make sure it is from a grass-fed cow. You want to make sure that's like an organic whey protein. You want to make sure it's a fully grass-finished cow, because otherwise it's no different than if you're not, if you're doing it meat from a non-grass-fed cow, your whey protein that's not organic, you're getting those bad hormones. Okay. You're getting stuff that's injected into that. When it comes from milk or comes from a milk product, if it's not organic, you're getting those bad hormones in there. So I don't personally recommend whey protein. I think more people are sensitive to dairy than they know it. And I think they're reacting to it. I think they're getting acne from it. I think their liver is responding to it. I think they're getting eczema, psoriasis. I think they're getting bloating. I think their body is more histamatic, and they're having more allergies and more allergy reactions, and definitely more acid reflux and more digestive issues because they're consuming whey protein or more dairy. So I personally don't recommend it. That's just the way I do nutrition. The first type of protein powder that I recommend, only because of the medicinal nature of it, is collagen. And I want to talk to you about the different types of collagen. So these are just two brands here. It's not that I'm trying to sell collagen. I'm just showing you two different brands. So this is Ancient Nutrition, and this is a multi-level collagen. This is Primal, and this is strictly bovine collagen. What is the difference? Well, if we look at this and I look at the protein on it, this is 10 grams of protein for one scoop. And this is 10 grams of protein for one scoop. Okay. But this is coming from the source that this is coming from is eggshell membrane, chicken bones, beef bones, and marine collagen. 4 different types of collagen. And the beauty of that is that means that it is going to benefit the gut lining, okay, those tight junctions. It's going to benefit your skin, your hair, your nails. It's going to benefit your immune system because it's benefiting that gut lining. It's going to benefit your joints, your bones, your teeth, okay? That's what that multi-collagen does. This is strictly bovine collagen. We do a lot with the Primal when we're baking. We like to use this for baking. We think it just has a good taste. I mean, we truly just do it because it has a good taste. So it works great to make like a cookie or a muffin with it. It just has a great taste to it. It has a good thickness and a good texture to it. This is like very granulated. It dissolves well in hot liquids. This one is thicker and has a great texture to it because I think it's derived from some coconut. And so I think it just bakes better. So what we're getting here is simply bovine collagen. Okay. So we really want to make sure that we're aware of the fact that this is going to do a wonderful job of benefiting our hair, skin, and nails. But we're not getting those joint benefits of this. We're not getting the bone, the joint, the gut lining benefits. We're getting that hair, skin, and nail benefit from this. Excellent. Nothing wrong with that. This is not a bad product. All the stuff that's mixed with it is not bad, okay? When we're consuming collagen, rather it's whichever one, I always recommend, whenever possible, that a person takes branched chain amino acids, okay? Let me get my glasses. For branched chain amino acids, I have them take it, this is pill form, this is pure encapsulations. We sell this here at the gym. What you're getting is leucine, L-leucine, L-isoleucine, and L-valine. And it's this, 2 of these pills is 1,200 milligrams of these branched chain amino acids. When I take this, when I take my collagen, that means that I'm getting that complete protein source. So that's how I can utilize that as my collagen. So I do 2 scoops of that collagen, or as my protein, I'm sorry. That's how I can utilize that as my protein. So I do 2 scoops of that collagen, and I would get 20 grams of it, okay? And that would act as my protein. And then I would take those 2 of the branched chain amino acids with that. And that would help to make that a more complete protein source. All right. The other thing I could do is I could have eggs with that. So I could sit and have my 2 eggs or my 3 eggs. And then I could put a scoop of that collagen in my coffee, drink that. And then it would bring me to 30 grams of protein. And then I would have the eggs, so I would have a more complete source. I've just gotten into a habit where every day at breakfast, I have 2 branched chain amino acid pills, and that just allows me to stay in a more balanced state. And I just feel like I'm getting a complete protein source. So that's just the way I do things. I like to recommend that for my clients as well. Now, another protein powder that I will use is egg white protein powder. And I don't have any of that here. I like to use the brand MRM, and that MRM protein powder is sold at O'Fallon Nutrition. I do believe that they also sell it at Whole Foods, and I think they might sell it at Fresh Time. You can get it on Amazon. I mean, there's a lot of different places you can get the MRM protein powder online. But the MRM protein powder is an egg white protein powder source. The only reason you're doing that is strictly out of convenience. You don't have time to make the egg whites. You're going to make a smoothie. You're truly just looking for convenience. Totally different than the collagen. The collagen is like medicine to your body. That's why I'm taking the collagen in. Medicinally, I am benefiting from having that collagen. That's why I'm consuming it. So understand there's a big difference there. Like there's a variable there. Like you really truly are medically benefiting. Your body is benefiting. The egg white protein powder, of course, you're getting nutrients, but it's not like almost like a supplement and a medicine. It's truly just a convenient way to get egg whites in. All right. Now, that egg white protein powder, primary reason I suggest it is because it's excellent for baking. It will grow whatever you're having. I mean, you'll get growth in whatever you're having. So if I want to make a muffin and I'm going to use almond flour and coconut flour, a couple eggs, and I want it to be flavored, I'm going to use that protein powder, that egg white protein powder. And I'm going to put, probably a fourth a cup in there, or maybe even half a cup. And that's really going to flavor it like vanilla, or it's going to flavor it like chocolate. And then I don't have to put honey in there. I don't have to put maple syrup in there. It's like I don't have to put sugar sources in there. So just take that into consideration. We could make a mug cake with it. We could make cookies with it. We could make pancakes with it. So that egg white protein is excellent for being able to get a build of the batter and to be able to get growth while also adding more protein. Our cookies at our bakery, at Sophie's Bakery, are 10 grams of protein. And that's very sustaining for a person as an afternoon snack. We're in the process of beefing up those cookies to make it to where they're more calorically dense. I mean, they're going to be more calories, but it's going to be because they really could carry you. Like they could almost count as a meal. There'll be enough calories that they truly could almost be a meal for you if need be. But they definitely would carry you from lunch to dinner. So, definitely would be an option to be able to have them. So that 10 grams of protein comes in because of the almond flour, because of the egg white protein powder, and because of the eggs that are in there. So if you're making your own treats, that's an excellent thing to add. I shared that oatmeal cookie recipe that I made. There'd be no reason why you couldn't add some of that egg white protein powder, some vanilla in there. You could leave out that honey. Okay, if you want to make those less sugar, you could put the egg white protein powder in there. You're not going to even have to replace it with anything. You could just add applesauce, because if I'm going to add more dry, I'd have to add a little bit of wet. Now, if I wanted to, I could do, I think those cookies were like 3/4 of a cup of flour. And I think I did like half cup coconut flour and then a 1/4 cup of almond flour. What you could do is half cup coconut flour and then 1/4 of a cup of the protein powder. And that would actually work at building you a batter, and it would actually grow it while getting you a little extra protein. But what it also does is it just gets you more flavor without having the carbs and the sugars from the honey. We made those cookies like a dessert, so I didn't mind that it had the honey. But if you wanted to be able to have something like that as your afternoon snack, you could absolutely build that without that honey. So you're not having that sugar, but bring that protein powder in and allow that to become, your flavor for it, and maybe a little more stevia if you wanted to, if you even felt like you needed it. So egg white protein powder is excellent for that. You'll definitely be able to create your pancake recipes, your brownie recipes, your muffin recipes, maybe you do some energy ball recipes, but anything that you're going to bake or anything that you're going to cook, you're going to get a build to that batter from that. Now, the next thing, I've recently been recommending this particular protein. This is called Truvani. And this is a plant-based protein. I, for years, did not recommend plant-based protein because I felt that they were way too high in carbohydrates. Like they're being derived from rice and peas together. And I just felt like they're too high in carbohydrates. And I just don't feel like a person should have to consume that many carbs in order to get that much protein. So with this Trivani, I love this product. The Food Babe created this product. I think her name is, I'm going to have to share her with you. I think her name is Valerie, but I'll share her in our group so you guys know. I'll just come up with something on her. We sell this at Integrity, or you could just go onto the Trivani website. This is the chocolate. I literally just mix this with water. That's all I mix it with. And it tastes great. It has a great thickness to it. But the ingredients on this are so clean. I have never found that with a plant-based protein. That's why I don't feel comfortable recommending them, because they're just not that clean. And like the macros just end up being too high. So 1 scoop of this is 20 grams of protein, and there's 20 scoops in here. So 1 scoop gets you 20 grams. So this is like breakfast, those 3 eggs, remember, this would be like us having 3 eggs in the morning for 20 days. So when we think about how much money we spend on this, well, how much money would we spend on that many eggs? And then if it's 20 grams of protein, you got to think that's about 3 ounces or 3 or 4 ounces of chicken. Okay. So how many for 20 servings of chicken? How much are we spending on 20 servings of chicken? So when you look at the price of something like this, you have to take that into consideration. How much is it costing you when you're buying the meat? How much is it costing you when you're buying those eggs? This is the ingredients: organic chia seed, organic monk fruit, organic pumpkin seed, organic vanilla powder, organic alkalized cocoa, and organic pea protein. That's it. Everything is organic. Absolutely everything. There's no flax in here. So if you've had any prostate, uterine cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, or ovarian cancer, you don't have to worry about that flax potentially creating estrogen. Okay. I don't dislike flax. In fact, I recommend flax oil for many people. But if you've had those cancer issues, you don't want to increase that, estrogen, if it's an estrogen dominant cancer. So the flax you'd want to avoid. This doesn't have that flax in there. So it's amazing. Chia seeds are incredible for your digestion. Excellent for, a leaky gut situation. Organic monk fruit, a good option for you. This is a pure version of monk fruit. No other filler ingredients, none. Pumpkin seeds, super high in things like iron. I mean, it's excellent for you. You are going to get a lot of really good fiber sources. So the grams of fat in here are 3 grams of fat. And the reason is because you're getting the pumpkin seed and you're getting the chia seeds. You're getting good fatty acids by taking this as well. The carbohydrates are only 5 grams. That's for 1 whole scoop, 33 grams of it. So 5 grams of carbohydrates. That's it. And the dietary fiber is 2 grams, 20 grams of protein. So excellent source. That's all we're getting in here. And that is for, a chocolate version. Of course, there's a vanilla one. There's a chocolate mint one. Yum. I mean, it's so yummy. It's like just uniquely different to have like a different flavor. Then there's a lemon one. I think the lemon one is awesome when you combine it with like some coconut milk and just to give you something refreshingly different. I just combine my chocolate one with water because I want like a leaner approach to it. So on my higher carb days, when I'm having more oatmeal or having more sweet potato, I don't necessarily want to bring a lot of fat in. So I'm not going to bring that coconut milk in. So I'm going to just mix this with water. This is a protein powder that I have had no problem mixing with water whatsoever. I mean, it is a good taste, especially the chocolate, just so you know. So if you're thinking, I'd like to be able to have one of my meals just be a protein powder, and maybe you already have a meal that is collagen, what you could do is 20 grams from this and 10 grams from collagen and combine those together. and make a smoothie with that together. We do that for John. We put strawberries in it. We put the Barlean's oil in it. And then we put a scoop of collagen and then a scoop of this. And then he's getting 30 grams when he does it. Sometimes we'll put 2 scoops of collagen in and 1 scoop of this, and then he gets 40 grams. So that's Truvani. This is a protein powder that I really like. We sell it at the gym. We don't sell it for any more of a cost than what they sell it on the website. And you benefit the gym from purchasing it. It really blesses the gym. And you can just go onto the Truvani website. They also sell that at Whole Foods. Don't know that they sell it at Fresh Time. I just personally have not found any other plant-based proteins that are that clean, that strict. If you have not followed the Food Babe, I know it's kind of a random name, but it's the Food Babe. She's the lady that's basically like lobbying against Kellogg's, and got Chick-fil-A to change things. Like she's hardcore. She's really out there, just putting herself out there, trying to get people to make changes. There's major corporations. It's pretty incredible. And her articles are outstanding. Anything that you kind of are questioning, type Food Babe and then what you're questioning. I guarantee she has an article out there and it's informative. Like you are really going to learn something about it. So that's a lot of information I just downloaded into you guys for protein. I hope it helps you. And, you know, if you're just unsure of stuff and you just feel like, I don't know if I'm doing all this right, I don't know if I have the right mix, then maybe that's the time that you do need to meet with someone one-on-one. You know, I've created this so that you have a community. I created this so that you were hearing from me and, you know, and you just regularly had some accountability. You had someone that was speaking into you, health, you know, and wellness. I didn't create this for the end all be all, fix everything for you. You know, make it to where, you know, all the answers are there. There's no way to provide all those answers, but there is a community and there is a news feed, and we do post in that. We want you to post in that. We want you to put your ideas out there. If for some reason you have not heard from me, then tag me. Make sure I'm tagged on that, you know, because it may not be prompting me and you may have somehow gotten down the list. I don't personally think that's happened yet because I get an email, but I get an email because I've been tagged in it. You know what I mean? So if for some reason you haven't heard from me, just go out there and just make sure you tag me in it so I can make sure I can give you, get back to you. But I don't really feel like that's come up yet. But position some questions out there. Since a lot of you don't listen to these live, you listen to them when you have time. You want to put some questions out there in that news feed so that I am creating a dialogue with you through these messages of information that I truly feel like benefits you. This was a message that I wanted to do, but it was a question that was prompted in that news feed. So it sort of solidified that I wanted to do this. You know, it made sense. People are thinking about this, but you guys have your own questions and I would love to hear from them. It doesn't mean that the very next week that I'm going to do it, but it's very likely something that I will do. I did post those oatmeal cookies out there. They were divine. I had them. They're absolutely delicious. I posted a second recipe for you guys because I added 2 tablespoons of coconut oil and just felt like when it baked, like it just brought it together stronger. So the second time I posted it, same exact recipe, it just had the 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in it. So just know that there's a second one out there. If you've still got the first one, just add 2 tablespoons of melted coconut oil in there. That's the only difference on that. And then I had also posted that link of that Whole30 recipe, that like Mexican meat with the avocado, the homemade guacamole. A+. That was like, and here's the thing. My husband, who says he can screw up making a bowl of cereal, even though he doesn't even eat cereal, but he says that, he made that because we were having guests over and we cooked for 5 hours straight because it was Sophie's birthday. We cooked for 5 hours. From 12 to 5, we cooked nonstop. And my husband made that recipe. and it was delicious. And that guacamole, it was basically just chopped up avocado that we kind of mashed up, and it was lime juice and cilantro. And then on top of it, like finely minced up red onion. And we just took some grape tomatoes that we chopped up, and then we put that on top of there. Oh, that guacamole was so good. And then the hamburger was like just this hamburger cooked, but then on the side, we had these like really finely chopped up mushrooms. And then that got mixed in. And then it got mixed in with salsa and seasoning. And it was really good. Like, it was interesting adding the mushrooms to that hamburger. Because like, you're thinking Mexican. I don't think you're thinking that you're going to get mushrooms, but it made it like heartier and meatier. So that was really good. So you guys all have to check out that recipe. The only thing we changed is that it called for like chipotle powder and like a habanero pepper. And we didn't have any of that. So we were like, okay, we have these canned chipotle peppers. And so we just took 2 of those chipotle peppers and minced them. And then we just did that. We didn't do the chipotle powder or the habanero pepper, because the 2 chipotle peppers, it adds enough of a spice. And so that was really enough. But excellent recipe. I would definitely check that one out. That was really good. I just want to mention this on here. I'm going to post about it, but our next Q&A is in 2 weeks. And that is Sophie's end of the year orchestra concert. She's in the honors orchestra for violin. And so as a 7th grader, she's allowed to play with the high school kids. They invite her to play with like the graduating class. And it's really impressive, because if any of you have a child that plays an instrument, you know that there's been some challenging years for the first couple of years of listening to the, and so now it's like, it's starting to come together at 7th grade, and she's practiced for years, and we've had private instructors for her. And she's like, really, like the other day, she was playing something from Lord of the Rings, which I've never watched, but she was playing something from there. And so she's really got a good sound, and it's really going well. So what I've tried, even built my vacations around this particular group. I've tried everything in my power to never, ever, ever have to reschedule it. But unfortunately, her honors concert is next Wednesday. She's never, ever had a concert thing on a Wednesday. So is kind of why I picked Wednesdays. So I apologize for that, but we are going to do that Thursday. So in 2 weeks, I'm going to do Thursday at 6 p.m. A lot of you really don't do this live, so I don't think it's going to impact you, but I didn't want you to go looking for that message and then have it not be there until that Thursday night. So just be prepared for that. I will post about it to let you guys know. It is not something that I plan to get in the habit of. I really want consistency of the every other Wednesday at 6 o'clock, so you know what to expect and you know when to expect it. But, she's my girl, and I want to be there because I was the driver for this violin. My brother bought it for her when she was 5. I know they went out one day, and he said, so Sophie, do you want to play an instrument? And she said, I want to play the violin and I want to play the piano. And he was like, well, I don't think your mom's going to let me buy you a piano, because her house is pretty decorated and I don't know where she's going to put that piano. And he said, but I will be happy to buy you a violin. And then he bought her a violin, which was incredible because they're very expensive. And so he bought her a violin. In the past year, she grew out of that violin. So she carried it all the way until 7th grade. But she's a big kid. If you've seen pictures of her, she's taller than me now. So we had to go and rent a violin from this Manchester music place. They are amazing people. And they charged us like $25 a month for this beautiful violin. And they said everything that we paid into this violin, that they would take it and credit it towards purchasing one if we wanted to eventually purchase one from them. And we did that. So we did that for a year. And then Beth, who does the professional organizing, she's one of my employees. She was doing professional organizing at a person's house, and they were getting rid of things. And Beth said this family had this beautiful violin. And Beth said, you're going to get rid of that? And they said, yeah, we don't ever use it. And she's like, well, this is a really nice violin. And they were like, do you have anyone that could use it? And she was like, I absolutely have someone that could use it. So Sophie just had this beautiful violin given to her, which is like such favor from God. And we just feel so blessed by that, because we were probably going to rent a violin for her for one more year. Violins are very expensive. And if we were going to buy her one, we really wanted to buy her a nice one. So we were just going to, hold off and let her use this rental one because it was such a nice violin. But now she has her own, and it's her violin, and it's absolutely free. So God opened the door to blessing for that. So just thought I would share that story with you guys. But she's starting to sound great, and I'm really proud of her. And she's 13. She just turned 13, and she's healthy, and she's strong, and she's working out, and life is good. So I hope that you guys are blessed. It is an honor for me to be able to sit with you and to share this information, and to allow that you allow me to be part of your life is just such a blessing. I pray blessing for each of you, and favor, and most importantly, just health. God bless you. Good night.